Chapter 27. Every year on Christmas Eve I receive gifts. When I was with my mother, it was often beautiful and expensive jewelry. I also received a set of antique 19th century Bohemian stained glass vase from Sue for Christmas present 2 years ago, but they were left in Paris along with the little things that Sue gave me during that time. Last Christmas, my ordered me a set of essential oils and incense utensils from Europe, hoping to help me relieve stress, relax my nerves, and promote sleep, but I was lazy and kept it to no avail. It was rare for 5 good friends to get together this year, but the gathering was actually for separation. The arrangement and preparations were so lively, but no one mentioned the need to prepare gifts. No. Seeing their gifts I be thinking about them, it is better to leave without anything to remember. For me, this hug from Min is actually the best gift. I was so sad but still happy, and a little melancholy. For a long time, my lonely and helpless soul felt a sense of belonging at that moment. Just let my wandering nightmare stop and wake up in Min's warm arm. However, Sana made a joke with me, just when I decided to let go of the past. Such an unexpected gift came from the sky. Seeing Sue's calm face, I was in a trance, my mood was mixed, and I didn't know whether it was joy or sorrow. When I came to my senses, I found myself standing between 2 men. Looking back and forth, I saw Sue's peaceful smile, and Min's gentle and sad eyes. Invisibly, as if being weighed by 2 big hands, I was at a loss. I must be drunk. I closed my eyes and shook my head vigorously, not daring to look up again. I staggered and turned away. No one stopped me. I went straight out the back door into the quiet lane. Like a fish out of water, I looked up and gasped. The cold wind hit me. I only wore a thin single coat. Pressing down on the nausea that churned in my chest, I looked around in horror. The pain in my injured palm hurt, but this did not in any way offset the pain in my heart. How can this be? Why would God make such a joke on me that is neither fun nor funny? I stood in this lonely alley with tears and laughter, surrounded by darkness, only the cold wind through the hall swept through. A windbreaker with its own body temperature quietly draped over my shoulder. A pair of stable hands fell down and grasped my arms, and under a gentle but persistent force, I slowly turned back. Ruth. How are you? Sue's deep voice sounded, and I saw the sadness and distress between his brows. Sue took me into his arms. My body was clearly a little stiff, but still did not refuse. Shall we go home, Ruth? I moved, trying to reach out to push Sue away, touching the wound, I groaning out in pain. Sue saw my palm, with tiny glass fragments embedded in it. The dark red blood was still pouring out and dripping. Sue let out a low exclamation and immediately reached out, wrapped his arm around me and took me to the hospital. Out of the corner of my eye, a tall figure stood faintly in the shadow at the back door of the bar. Min. I didn't look back. But in front of my eyes, Min's gentle and sad gaze appeared just now. I'm sorry, Min. Sue and I left in a hurry. I can't remember how we got to the hospital and how we got back to my place. The next day was a bright sunny day. The curtains were not closed. The harsh beam of light poured into the room through the gap. I woke up with hangover headache. My mind is blank. It really is like a washed pocket, clean thorough. If only I could lose my memory. I muttered to myself. The things that happened last night began to come back to my mind bit by bit. I woke up suddenly, sat up and looked down. I was lying in my own bed and futon. My injured left hand wrapped in gauze bandage, and the wound on my hand stinked from time to time. How did I get home? I don't have the slightest impression. With a sigh, I rolled over and got out of bed, holding my headache head and headed out to the kitchen to look for water. I stopped abruptly as I passed the living room. I saw a man leaning on the sofa over there, sleeping peacefully. Sue. Sue really appeared in front of me like that, reclining on the sofa, his head tilted slightly, and sleeping with his eyes closed. Sue is old. I've never seen Sue look so tired and sluggish. I squatted down slowly, raised my face and looked at Sue in front of me carefully. In the past 2 years, Sue has lost a lot of weight again, with a tired look on his face. Even when he fell asleep, he gently raised his eyebrows. The muscles on his face were a little loose, and the skin was full of faint traces left by the years. Although it is not obvious, it is compared to my memory of his radiant appearance, it was enough to shock me. Sue fell asleep. The nasolabial lines on both sides of his nose extended all the way down to the corner of his mouth, revealing a hint of sadness. Are you always like this? I don't seem to ever see you really smiling. Why are you so sad even when you laugh? With such a sad expression even in your dream? My heart throbbed with pain. I shook my head vigorously. Sue suddenly moved. He was wearing only a turtleneck sweater. His windbreaker jacket that kept me warm last night was stained with blood. I gently took out the blanket and put it on Sue, then picked up the windbreaker and shook it, intending to take it out for cleaning. Something dropped. A booklet fell out of the side pocket. I bent down to pick it up and looked at it. I couldn't help but feel shock, and my hands were shaking so much that I could barely hold the book. This booklet has been turned to the point where the paper is soft and the front page is worn and yellowed. It is the rose map that Sue taught me to read French when I was a child. My feet felt weak and I fell to the ground, just staring at the map in a daze. Could it be that Sue has been taking it with him for so many years? Then why did he have the heart to reject me again and again? Why did he still ignore me for the past 2 years? Thousands of thoughts ran through my mind, but I didn't notice that Sue, who was next to me, had woken up. Sue put my head into his arms without saying a word. I heard the strong heartbeat from his broad chest. Tears fell uncontrollably. Watching the light and shadow in front of the window gradually shift and dim, I still maintain the posture that I sat leaning against the sofa when Sue left. My feet are already numb. It seems that Sue's voice kept swirling in my ears, over and over again, as if it wants to get into my head and engrave it by itself. Only when it is written down, it's willing to give up. I'm sorry, Ruth, my little Ruth, for making you suffer so much. Because I don't dare, I can't. I'm old enough to be your father, already a middle-aged man. I'm old so I can't be so selfish. However, I have been thinking of you every day for the past 2 years. Ruth, 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 you are as delicate and beautiful as a white rose that blooms in the early morning, a rose with magic power. I just found out that without you, life would lose its sound, color, smell, touch, except for the memory of it. It makes no sense at all. I'm sorry, Ruth, my little Ruth. I've lost half of my life in front of me, and I can't waste another half, so here I am. Forgive me, Ruth. I know it's sudden, but it doesn't matter. I'll wait. Keep waiting here. Ruth, I'm not going to put pressure on you. You can think about it for as long as you want. I'll always be here. Isn't this the promise I've been longing for? Why do I feel sad and not happy? I didn't even mean to be happy at all. I don't remember how I responded at the time. Maybe I didn't say anything. I don't remember how Sue left. He seemed to have said that he planned to stay here for a while. But what does that have to do with me? I don't want it. After waiting so long, why did I have such an idea in the first place? Yes, I just don't want it. So what should Sue do? He was so haggard and full of hope, and that elegant man who used to be so heroic is actually so humble today, bowing his head in front of me and begging for forgiveness. If I say no, how will he feel? But is this ending really what I want now? Even so, what should men do? Extremely depressed, I got up. My feet seemed to be biting by thousands of ants. I fell back on the sofa and rubbed it for a while. It's getting dark, and I didn't want to stay at home. I was afraid that Sue would come back at any time, even if it was just him calling me. I don't want to take it. I threw myself into the bathroom and took a shower, changed my clothes and hurried out of the house. I don't know where to go, I just know I don't want to stay at home. When I came out of the apartment building, I was stunned again. Min was leaning in front of the car and staring at the door intently. He was still in last night's attire, his fibrous roots unshaved, and his face full of thought. I walked over step by step. Min didn't blame or question in the slightest, just had a gentle, expectant look on his face. When I approached, he sighed and pulled me into his arms, rubbing his chin lightly on my wet hair. He said softly, "Shall bye, you fool." Sitting in the car, Min took me around the city, and we stayed silent all night. In the mirror in front of me, Min would look at me from time to time. He frowned slightly, and the firmness in his eyes made me speechless. I just lowered my eyes and turned my head to look out the window. It was a dark night outside, and in such a metropolis, it was impossible to ask for complete darkness. Against the night, my pale and indifferent face is reflected on the glass window next to me. The bottom of my eyes is an endless void. We didn't get back home until midnight. We didn't talk in front of my door, not even an exchange of glance. Nothing. I opened the door and said goodnight in a low voice. When I was about to go in, Min suddenly grabbed my arm. "I'm sorry, Min, I was a little distracted and raised my hand to break free, but Min ignored me and dragged me against the wall. I was a little surprised. Min had never been so rude in my impression. "Xiaobai, I just want to know, were you thinking of him when I kissed you yesterday?" Min said in a low voice. His hand fell on the wall beside me. His face was expressionless, but the eyebrow on the left has jumped slightly. "Yes. Ah no. I'm sorry, I don't know." I swallowed hard, with a tone that even I felt terrified. "Not sure? Huh?" Min still asked in a low voice, as if he was just talking to himself. I shook my head dejectedly. I just wanted to hide in my room and be alone. "I'm so tired. I'm sorry, Min. I want to be quiet for a while." Min suddenly grabbed my shoulder, leaned over and kissed me. I was surprised that I wanted to push him away, but Min's hands were so strong. He just kissed me quietly, persistently, and refused to let go. After stalemate for a while, I finally surrendered. No longer struggling, I slowly raised my face and closed my eyes. My hands and Min's gently held together. It took a long time for Min to let me go. He lowered his head and asked me with a smile, "What now? Are you sure? Now do you know who is kissing you?" Kiss? My cheeks started to heat up, but there was an inexplicable ease in my heart, and I nodded slightly. Min reached out and rubbed my short hair and said gently, "Take a good rest, don't think about it. I'll give you time, okay?" We both laughed. For the next 2 weeks, Sue disappeared again. I almost thought that Christmas Eve reunion was just another one of my dream. My went to New Zealand. Occasionally there would be a phone call. Her voice sounded very confident and cheerful, which made us all feel comforted. Of course, Sue's arrival is not a dream. His appearance has become a topic that we have carefully avoided. Everyone took care of my feelings so tenderly that I was moved, but I couldn't open my mouth or ask for help. The distance between Min and I, which had been quickly approached and bridged, suddenly opened. He resumed his previous deliberate, maintaining an estranged attitude. Calm and considerate attitude still gave me a lot of pressure. After half a month, Sue appeared again, and he told me that the affairs at hand had been temporarily assigned to the trusteeship, and that he could be in peace. Quietly rested for a while, waiting for my answer without distractions. Sue was temporarily staying in a hotel, and during the 2 weeks he was away, he had already sent someone to find a suitable residence. "I will make the most beautiful palace for my little Princess Ruth," Sue said with a smile. I looked at Sue's happy face. All the words were stuck in my throat and couldn't get out. It turns out that no matter how deep the love is, it will slowly recede. When the flowers are very red, they will turn into pieces of ashes. It's just that I fell into a dilemma of looking back and forth and balancing left and right. I couldn't avoid my true intentions, but in the face of Sue's eagerly looking forward eyes, I couldn't refuse. Ashamed, I was even more guilty and had to avoid Min. In desperation, I chose to run away. I avoided it for a while. At most, I don't want anyone, and I can wander around the world alone. Hard to avoid, deliberately give way. Sue and Min are two smart people, and soon felt my hesitation. Most importantly, they all adopted a quiet watch attitude. Don't push, don't pull, don't back down. I'm not surprised Sue would do this, he's always been too cautious. As a businessman, it is the same as a man. But Min is such an upright, free and easy person. In the past, restraint and low-key were considerate, but today's cautious words and deeds may have added a little more hurtful meaning. After all, he also has a proud, vulnerable side. Days passed, and my mood was getting lower day by day. I hardly ever go to the Emerald Forest, I haven't seen Jiayin for a long time, and I almost lost contact with Oh Young. Sue didn't dare to see Min either. I and Mai was on the phone every week, but I didn't dare to say anything. Mai seems to know something, but she understands me. If I don't want to open my mouth, it's useless to ask, so she just kept silent. Every day I stay at home to work, and occasionally go to the supermarket to do some shopping. When I was with Sue, I just smiled and listened to him tell some anecdotes about the scenery around the world. At the beginning, we talked about work, about the Emerald Forest, and Jiayin's embarrassment, but not talking about each other's future. I managed to get through January and then the Lunar New Year. The day before Valentine's Day, in the West it is in February, I ran to the north alone, wandering around in Beijing and Tianjin. I didn't go to any attractions, just the streets and alleys. After a week of driving around, I accumulated a lot of taxi tickets. When I met a driver who wanted to go around in circles, I could escort him through the streets and alleys to get me around. I didn't go back until the end of February. Even though I had explained to Sue and Min before, the faces on both of them were so gloomy for several days. I can't go on like this. Seeing that the decoration of the small Western-style building purchased by Sue is in full swing, facing Sue inquiring eyes and Min who is getting more and more silent, I hate my cowardice. I finally made up my mind to say my thoughts out loud no matter what. The most surprising thing was that in March, my mother came here from Tokyo. It's wonderful. I think. I have long known that Sue has a deep love for my mother, and he is accustomed to my mother's peculiar view of love and logic of life. I don't know why my mother came here this time. When Mr. Abe came last time, I heard that my mother and her husband separated again. Could it be that she is here for Sue this time? However, in Sue's current situation, can he still love my mother like that? Anyway, it's already messed up. I sighed and shook my head. I simply closed my eyes and covered my ears without asking indiscriminately. Things are completely beyond my control, and all I can control now is probably myself. End of chapter 27.